Unfortunately, there have been some articles in the news saying that all real estate agents do is just open the door and collect a big fat paycheck. Ugh. And I will be honest with you, in the information that I put out there on my YouTube and on my Instagram, I definitely don't share enough about truly what I do on a day-to-day basis. And even when I'm in transactions with both my buyer clients and my seller clients, there's a lot that I shield from them so that I can take the brunt of things and the stress and stuff like that to make it look like it's going smooth on their end. So yeah, people probably think we don't do a hell of a lot and we just get a whole bunch of money. But in this week's video, I'm gonna share with you a lot of what I do as a buyer's agent. When they find the house that they like, I'm going to tell you everything I do to get them from falling in love and to the closing table. So stick around. Hey everyone, my name is Danae Hewitt and I am your go-to DFW realtor here in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, helping people buy and sell their homes here. And I know this video is gonna come across of, well, you're just a real estate agent. Of course you're gonna say y'all do a lot and that's a whole bunch of crap. Well, that's fine. If that's what you think, then you can move on or just stick around and actually find out what we do. Now, I'll put this out there that there are a lot of things that are different in every single transaction. Even though we know the process, it's the showings, it's seeing the houses, inspections, appraisals, negotiations, closing table, it's the same process, but getting there is very different because we're dealing with different people every time. We're dealing with different agents, different buyers, different sellers. No two transactions are the same. Let's put it that way. Buying a home is probably the most expensive purchase that you will ever make in your entire life. So I'm going to share with you how I help my buyers clients get to that closing table. So the first thing I do when I meet with my home buyer clients is I find out exactly what they want in a home. Well, duh, but it's more than just a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home with a big backyard. I really want to know what they plan to use that home for. And you may be thinking, well, duh, they're going to use it to live in it. But no, there are people that say, hey, I want to be able to park my RV at my house. So I need to make sure that the amp breaker is big enough to support that. And if it's not, I need to figure out how much it's going to cost me to make that happen. And what I also want to share with my clients is based on this home that you want, let's find out how much that's going to cost you. So I'm going to put you in touch with a local lender, and that lender is going to run through all of the numbers with you. They're going to get you pre-approved and they're going to find out approximately what your payment is going to be on a monthly basis. And when I say approximate is because property taxes are different in every single city, and we haven't locked in your interest rate because you're just now home shopping, and we don't lock in the interest rate until you have a contract. So it is an approximate number, but we need to know that number before we go and look at houses. And it is my responsibility to you to never show you houses that are outside of your budget, because what good does that do me if I know that, hey, you like this house for $450, but you're only approved for $400, we're not going to get $50,000 off that sales price. We're just, it's just not going to happen. So why even run through the trouble of going to see the house when it's just something that's outside of your budget? So I never do that. It doesn't do me any good, you, the sellers, it doesn't do anybody any good showing you houses outside your budget. So I'm going to take those home searches and I'm going to gather homes that are in the MLS, and I'm going to have those emailed out to you on a daily basis. And it's going to really get as much of the criteria that you want in these emails. Some of the search parameters I simply can't do, I don't want a house with wallpaper. Okay, well, unfortunately, that's not a box that I can select. So if you find a house with the wallpaper, you can simply trash it so that it never shows up in any other future emails, because I know that you don't like it. But if there are houses that you love, then that's great. Mark that house with a heart so that I know that you are liking this house, you like the inside, you like the outside of it. It helps me better get to understand what it is exactly you like in homes. And here's the great part. Bye-bye to third-party real estate sites. Bye-bye Zillow, Realtor.com, Trulia, like whatever you look at homes on, because a lot of those times you're going to see the wrong status listed on those websites. And it happens a lot where I'll have clients that'll still go to Zillow and they'll send it to me, and then I'll go and look it up and it's like, oh, it's under contract, but the status on Zillow says that it's active. So that's great. You just don't have to go to those websites anymore. Just stick to what I send you on the MLS. So once you send me the homes that you like to see, that's when I do some research for you. We don't just go schedule a showing and let's go see it. No. There are things that I look into, and I like to give you that information so that you have as much information as possible and you're still okay with everything before we go and schedule that showing. So things that I look up are the tax records. I want to see who the owners are on file. I want to see property taxes. I want to see what exemptions the sellers have filed on this home, because that can affect you at the closing table. I also want to read through the seller's disclosure. That discloses to the buyers and their agents everything that the seller knows to the best of their knowledge, what's going on with that property. It's going to tell us on there if they filed any insurance claims on that house. Well, if it has, guess what? I want to know what those claims are that have been filed so I can give that to you. I'm going to look through any addendums that are uploaded online, and again, that depends on the house, if there are any. I'm going to look through that survey, because if I know that you want to put a pool in the backyard and there is a 20-foot gas easement in the middle of that backyard, guess what? You're not putting a pool in that backyard. So that house is going to be checked off your list if I know up front that you want to put a pool in the backyard. So these are all the things that I like to do before we even go and schedule houses. All right. So now we've narrowed that list down a little bit more. Now we go and we see the houses. I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna schedule all those showings. I'm gonna send you our timeline, and we're gonna map it out as best as possible so we're not driving all over town. Like the path seems kind of, fluid when we go and see the houses. And when we get to the houses, you know what, you guys, I have seen some beautiful ones. I am standing in a beautiful house right now. I've seen some gorgeous houses. I do not go, oh my gosh, look how pretty it is. No, I don't do that. I don't do that. Okay, I'm over it. I've seen a lot of pretty houses. So when I get in there, I'm looking at the things that you're probably not looking at. I'm checking out the AC, the roof, the foundation, the water heaters. I'm testing to see if there's some pressure here for that water in the sink. I'm looking under the sinks to see if there's any leaks. I'm opening doors. I'm looking for cracks in the windows. I'm just looking at a lot of things because my ultimate goal is to make sure that I'm protecting you throughout this entire process. And if I'm seeing some things that may not be taken care of, then I know, hey, that's going to pop up on an inspection report if we do go under contract with this house. And I'm also going to be giving you this information and pointing these things out to you. And then you let me know, are these things going to be deal breakers for you? If you know that this house is going to probably need some foundation work and we need to get an engineer out here to check it out, then you let me know if you're willing to take on that cost, or if you want to have that seller take on that cost. So these are just things that I like to bring to everyone's attention so that you make the best decision moving forward as to which house you're going to put an offer in on. All right, so we have decided on a house. This is where it gets very exciting. So the first thing that I do is, obviously after, yay, we want to put an offer in, is I'm calling the listing agent. I'm calling them to introduce myself, build rapport with them, ask some questions about the house that you might have. I'm going to try to get that info from the agent. And I'm also going to find out exactly what those sellers are looking for in their offer. Now, spoiler alert, most of the time what a seller is looking for in an offer is how much they're going to net. They want to know how much you're going to offer them. What's that final sales price going to be? But there are going to be some other terms that may be really important to that seller, and I want to try to find that out for the agent so I can let you know and we can structure the offer as best as possible. So once we know the things that the sellers ideally want to see in an offer, then we're going to put the offer together. Our contract is 10 pages long here in Texas, and I'm going to make sure that you understand as much as possible in that contract. I'm not just going to say, sign it, here you go. We're gonna discuss all of the offer terms, and I've actually done a couple of videos on some offer terms for you when you're putting in an offer, so you can definitely check out. It's actually a two-part mini series. But I'm explaining those parts to you, but there's also parts of the contract that have nothing to do with financial negotiations. Like if there are already leases on the property, if the property is in a mud or a pit, how the seller needs to leave the property to you. So I'm gonna go through all of that again so you really understand that 10-page contract. And then we're also gonna go through and discuss any addendums that need to be provided with the contract too, like the third-party financing addendum. If the home was built before 1978, we have to talk about the possibility that there might be lead-based paint in that home. So I'm gonna go through all of this stuff with you just to really make sure that you understand exactly what it is that you're signing. And my whole purpose of doing this is to make sure that as my buyer client, I am protecting you throughout this entire process. And that has already started from our first conversation, but that's so important that that protection is there when we're putting in this offer. I want to make sure that you are not open to any exposure down the line if for some reason something happens and you end up needing to terminate on this house. Once we submit that offer, I call the listing agent again and let them know, hey, you've got an offer in your inbox. The lender that you are working with, if you are financing this house, I'm gonna have that lender give that listing agent a call so they can also vouch for your financing and let them know what a qualified financial buyer you are for this house. These are all things that help us make our offer look as strong and to help to make that listing agent comfortable with me as the agent and knowing you as the buyer that you've got good financing so that that agent can relay this information over to their sellers. And then we negotiate. All right, so there may be a counter offer that comes back to us. We may have to counter back to them. That's what you hire me to do. I've negotiated a lot of home sales, millions of dollars worth of real estate. And so I've been there, I've done that, I know how to do it. And again, that's why you hire me to do that. So I can be the bad guy if I need to sometimes. I know me putting my hand on my hip may seem a little sassy and I can't be the bad guy, but I absolutely can be. And I'm gonna be working for you to make sure that you are getting the house for the best price possible and you're okay with every single term with this house before we go under contract with it. All right, the offer is accepted. So now what do we do? All right, I'm gonna be sending you out an email with all the information of the timeline of what's coming up. I'm gonna make sure that the lender has the executed contract, that the title company has the executed contract, and we need to get that option and earnest money delivered to the title company because time is of the essence. 3 days that money needs to get to the right party. Otherwise, the seller can terminate the contract because you as the buyer did not perform according to the contract. So I'm gonna be making sure we don't miss that deadline. Next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna be scheduling those inspections. I have a lot of really great inspectors and contractors that I work with here in the Metroplex. I've used them personally on my own houses, and those are the people that I am recommending to you. If you wanna use somebody else, of course you can. I'm just saying this is who I've worked with, use them personally, trust them immensely. This is who I would recommend that you have to do the home inspection, do the foundation inspection, do the roof inspection, whatever it is on the house. And just so you know, I don't get like any sort of a kickback from these people. I still like to recommend them because I've worked with them, I trust them, and again, my responsibility is to you as my client, and I'm gonna make sure I'm only recommending the best people to you. Once all of our inspections are done and we get all of those reports back, we're gonna have to review that report together. There's gonna be some deficiencies in that house. I don't care if it is a brand new construction house. I live in a brand new construction house. Well, it's a couple years old now, but there were things that were wrong with it because guess what? Humans build houses. Things are not always done correctly. And that's going to be the same on if your house is 2 months old or if it's 20 years old. We're going to review that report. We're going to talk about some things that are a must-have that you want. We're going to make sure that anything that comes back on that report that you are comfortable with saying, hey, no problem, I can go ahead and tighten that faucet if I need to once the house is mine. But if there's some bigger things that are like deal breakers, you're like, no, the seller absolutely needs to take care of that, then I'm going to write up an amendment. I'm going to use that report and I'm going to send that back to the agent. I'm going to say, hey, here are all the things that my clients would like fixed at your client's expense. expense before we move forward on this house. And time is of the essence of this preparation of this document and getting an answer back from them. We only have X number of days to get that done, which is negotiated upfront in the contract, usually 5 to 7 days. And if that's not done on time, then yikes, then you're buying a house as is with the seller not fixing anything. So that's why that is a deadline I never, ever miss, because I know that that is so important. If there are things that you want the seller to fix, we're going to get an answer from them before the deadline. It's just going to happen. Okay. So my goal is to protect you in that time. And I want to make sure that every single repair that you want to have fixed, we're going to try to get that done from the seller. I'm going to be negotiating with that agent so that they are handling those repairs prior to closing. So while the inspections are going on in the background, the title company is working, the lender is working, they're working on your financing. So you're going to be getting a lot of questions from your lender and from the title company. And if you've got any questions about any of that stuff, that's when you come to me. Now, I like to stay in my own lane of buying and selling houses, but of course I know things about title policies and I know things about lending, of course. So if there's something that your lender might have mentioned to you and you just don't understand, then let me know. I'm here to help. I'm here to give you some advice a little bit when it comes to like homeowners insurance. Hey, I'll recommend my homeowners insurance guy to you because I really like him. So I'm here to answer any of those questions and just kind of help to prepare you for what those next steps are. And one of those next steps may be getting the appraisal back. A lot of times the home does need to be appraised. That lender needs to know that the money that they're giving you, that the house is worth what they are giving you. And if that appraisal report comes back low, meaning we're under contract on a $400,000 house and the lender's saying, nope, it's only worth $375. We're only going to give you $375, not $400. Houston, we have a problem. So at that point, there's negotiations that need to happen. How are we going to bridge that gap of that $25,000? Not something that we need to talk about and worry about here in this video, but there are things that we can do. And that's how I'm going to counsel you through that process to see, yikes, what do we need to do to bridge that gap of that $25,000 appraisal? If the appraisal does meet our contract price, which is what we want to have happen, I can go through that with you and kind of show you what exactly the homes that the appraiser used on it, explain it to you. I'm certainly happy to run through that appraisal report with you if you guys have questions about it as well. The next things that are going to happen is we're going to receive that title commitment from the title company. And if the home is in an HOA, we're going to be receiving the HOA documents from the title company as well. The HOA company gives everything to the title company. They are our neutral third party that handles all the paperwork and all the money for the house. We definitely will get a title commitment. We might get those HOA documents. And so my job from there is to look through all of that information for you. Up front, when you're telling me there are things that you want to do with this house, I'm going to make sure to look in that title commitment and make sure that, yikes, something hasn't popped up that says, no, they can't do this with the house. But in your original offer, there is a paragraph of the offer that states if you as the buyer, if you cannot do this certain thing with the house, then you can terminate the contract and the earnest money will be delivered back to you. Well, if I don't put that correct statement in that paragraph, guess what? You're buying a house. You're buying a house. There's no way for us to terminate that because we haven't cited that up front. So that's why my communication with you right up front off the bat, knowing exactly what you want to do with this property is so important. Like if you want to have chickens in your backyard, we need to make sure, one, that the house is not in an HOA, because currently in the state of Texas, any houses that are in an HOA cannot have any livestock, any fowl, nothing. They can't have any of those types of animals in the house. So I know, okay, we're not looking at homes with an HOA. If you want to build an ADU in the backyard, an accessory dwelling unit, well, if those deed restrictions do state that yes, you can build something in the backyard, but you can't have anyone living in it, yikes, the whole point of you building an ADU was so that someone could live in it. And now the deed restrictions are saying no. But if we put that in that paragraph up front in our offer, you can terminate and not lose your earnest money. So again, I am here to protect you every step of the way. So once, let's say we read through that title commitment and those HOA docs and there is nothing glaring, there is no red flags, we are still proceeding and moving forward. Then the final things is you're going to get your final approval from your lender, and we get your clear to close, which is like awesome. That means that the lender has said, yes, you are fully approved for this loan. You can close this file. You know, let's say a week after that or so, we're going to be getting things like the closing disclosure. I look through that closing disclosure to make sure, although that's the money. That's the money that you are paying when you get to that closing table. That's your down payment, that's your closing costs. So I'm gonna make sure that those numbers are correct. And guess what? There are humans that put that document together and they make mistakes. Sometimes they may say, oh, hey, a new survey was ordered. And maybe in the contract, we put it at the seller's expense, but oh no, they've put it on your expense. Well, I'm gonna catch things like that to make sure that no, per the contract, is at the seller's expense. So just having me be another set of eyes looking at that closing disclosure for you is really helpful to make sure that you aren't spending money unnecessarily. And then also at this point, we need to start putting those utilities into your name. I'm gonna just double check with the listing agent to make sure when the seller is gonna turn those utilities off and making sure it's not before closing, and then letting you know when they're gonna come off and then when you can turn them on in your name. Then we're gonna schedule our closing time. Here in Texas, we actually do have a time of day that we are going to close. Some states, I understand that it's just, hey, on this day, and you just kind of show up whenever. I don't know. No, but like we literally have appointments with the title company, and that is when you are going to be there with your driver's license, and the escrow officer or the notary is going to go through all of those documents with you. It's a lot of documents, okay? It's a lot of documents to sign when you are buying a house, especially if you are getting a loan for it, because a lot of them are lender documents that you'll have to sign. If you're paying cash, the stack is like this thick. If you're getting a loan, it's like this thick, okay? It's a lot of documents. So I'm there, I'm with you at the closing table. The notary is the one that goes through and explains all the documents, but a lot of times, you know, if I need to, I can chime in and kind of regurgitate something that they might have said, maybe if you didn't understand something. But, you know, I try not to get step on anybody's toes or anything, but if you've got a question right there, ask the notary or ask me. I'm definitely here for you at the closing table. And then once we have closed the house, this is very exciting. The home has funded. We're gonna coordinate when you are getting the keys to the house. We're gonna coordinate when you can actually take possession of the house. Like let's say the sellers are staying in the house for a couple of days after closing. So we're gonna negotiate that already up front, but we're gonna just double check that, make sure everybody understands that once we get to the closing table. And then after that, I'm here to be a resource for you to help you file your homestead exemption on the property, if this is going to be your primary residence, and just answer any questions that you have as you kind of transition into moving into your house. I've moved here in the Metroplex. I've used movers. I've had to file for my homestead exemption. So having my experience of just me personally doing that helps me to help you when you are doing it. Buying a home is the most expensive purchase you will probably ever make in your entire life. And I really hope that this video has given you some insight into what it is a buyer's agent does to help you and protect you and to make sure they're looking out for your best interest in order to get you into the home of your dreams. If you guys found any value in this, or maybe I taught you something new, then I would love to know that in the comments below. And if you're looking to purchase a home somewhere here in the Metroplex and you don't have a fabulous agent to help you, then let me know. I would love to be that agent for you. All right, thanks for tuning in this week. I'll see y'all next week.